Hi, in this video I'm gonna show you how to create a simple shoutbox for your game created with Coppercube engine. So basically let's talk a little theory at first. Here I have a pretty detailed and well-rounded schema of what we are going to do, and let me just put a few words here. Basically the idea is that we're gonna create some sort of chat log file where all messages will be saved, all messages from the players I mean will be saved, and we will put it somewhere on the internet. Just a quick sec, let me check if everything is recording. That's fine. And basically since it will be on the internet and it will be publicly available, and so our clients, which are Coppercube games game clients, will be able to download it from the internet, then parse it and show it on the interface. And also, due to some scripting magic, we will be able to update the log file with the new messages. Basically, that's the whole idea of what we are going to do. So let's start with the server part first. In order to store the file on the internet, we need some sort of a host or hosting provider, which will do it for us. I'm gonna use this one, 30webhost.com. Not actually sure how it's pronounced correctly because I found it a couple of days ago when I was doing the investigation for this tutorial. Um, Basically, what they provide is they give you some free web hosting compatibilities. You can host a website. You have some disk space there, which is far more than we need to put our text messages, and also they provide some limited bandwidth, which is also not that a big deal because we will be only serving short messages and also a short text file. So in order to start, you need to sign in here. I've done it in a separate window because it takes quite a lot of time to load. And I just signed in with my regular Google account. It doesn't ask for credit card or something like that. And also just to notice, I'm not advertising the site because I only use it like a couple of times till now. I'm not sure if it's safe to use it, if it steals your personal data or something like that. To tell the truth, I just don't care. I don't have any personal data on this account anyway. So in order to start, let's just create a new site. Let's name it somehow. Let's say, yes, shoutbox. It's just because I already tried this. Let's just generate another password. I will change it after. Oh, it's already taken. Shoutbox 2. It's just because I already done it and basically I didn't record anything. So yeah, you just need to pick a name and then click on create, and it will create a site for you. Takes some time. As soon as the site is created, it should take you, to a manager, or it should take you to some other pages if you're doing it for like not for the first time. But if it takes you to a manager, you go to tools and then to file manager, and then you click on upload files. It opens an FTP connection to your site, and you can modify the files which are hosted on your site using this web interface. I'm going to go to public HTML folder, and here I will create a new file. I will name it chatlog because this file will store all of our chat logs here. And let's see if I actually can access it from the internet. So in order to do so, we need to use a link which we can find if you go to my site. It will show all the sites you have. And here is the link to your site. So we just open it in a new tab. It's for because we don't have a main page yet. And here we just type in chatlog, which is basically the name of our file. Currently it's empty. If you double click on it, you can add some content. Let's just add something like hello from the chatlog. That's it. Click on save. Let's try it again. And as you can see, it shows us our content. So the idea is that this file will contain an array of different messages which user sends. For example, it will be like user1 says something like hello, and then there'll be like user2, which says hi or something. Let's just save and see if it works. Yes, so basically now I get an array. Let's just clean it for the sake of compatibility with PHP and close it. So that's how we get the messages from the internet. Basically, we just call the URL and it shows us all our messages. The task of adding these messages is a little bit more complex. In order to do so, we need to create a simple PHP script. Let's just click here on a new file, call the file index.php. Index means that it will be sort of a root file for the site, and if you want to access it, we don't need to use any path. We can just use our site address. So now the page is obviously blank because we don't have anything once again, and we need to do some scripting here. First, we need to declare what the code which we're doing here is actually PHP code. So it's done like that. Then the question is, how do we serve the data from our client? In order to do so, we have only one option in Coppercube. Really, it's to make an HTTP call, and it could be only the get call. Since get call doesn't support anything like bodies or something like that, we're going to be using the query parameters. So the query parameters is actually something that you can use that you can add to the URL in order to get some additional data, for example, for the site. And the syntax is the following. So question mark, and then you paste some key, and then a corresponding value. In our case, it will be name. There we will put some username, and the second parameter will be message, like hello. So in order to access this from PHP, what we need to do is we can get it using server variable. And inside the server, I guess it's an object, not sure, we can query for something called query string. So if we just echo this now, it should show us the query string. So it will be this one, if everything works correctly. Yes, it is. But this format is not really that good for us because we won't be able to format string, and also we won't be able to put it in our array in the correct format which I want it to be here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use another PHP command which is called parse string, str, short for string. It will do the following. It will extract these pairs, and then it will declare the variable which correspond to the key, and it will say set this the value of the corresponding variable to the corresponding value from the query string. So let's just try if it works. So this time I'm actually gonna just create a new variable, new message, and then I'm gonna put here the name, concatenation mark, says something, and then message. I guess this looks correct, and let's just echo this variable and see if it works. So now, yes, we have the string in pretty much the correct format. So this is how we get the message, but now we need to somehow add it to the array which we have in our file. In order to do so, we need the first thing that we need to do is to just read the file content of the message file. So we have the command for that. It's file get contents. Here we should pass our file name, which is, I believe, chat log. Is it a chat log? Yes, chat log. And this is also not enough because file contents, then it reads the file, it returns you a string, and we need to somehow map this string to an array. Not map, I mean decode. In order to do so, we are gonna use the command called JSON decode. And also there is a second parameter which I don't quite remember what it does, but it's sort of needed here, so it's set to true. So now we will have an array of all messages which are in our array. Currently it should be empty, so no messages. And when what we do next is we just push our new message to the existing array of messages. New message. Okay, so let's just save and see if it works once again. Oh, it doesn't show us anything, but we can check the... Okay, it also doesn't do anything right now because we didn't save the text file. So we got the contents, we added the new message, but we didn't actually saved the file back to the file system. In order to do so, we are gonna use file put contents function. We need a file name here, which is chatlog, and then we need to encode the JSON in opposite to previously decoded strings. So now we need to encode the array to string back. And here goes just our array, which is messages, something like that. Let's just save it once again and let's check if it works. Okay, let's just add user says hello. Let's get the chat log, and it returns us this message. So now message is sent, and it's also stored inside the file. Let's add another message. User2 says hi. And now let's check our chat log. So now we have two messages here. Basically, that's it. We have a server-side logic, everything that we need, pretty simple. There's only one thing which I would really like to add to this. So after we added the new message to array, I want to limit the amount of messages that we can store to 5. Just because I don't want to do, like some tricky stuff like like parsing the array in the correct way and checking the length and only sending some last messages. I will just limit the amount of messages that user can see on the backend, on the server side. So let's quickly save it and let's check if I didn't mess up anything. It looks valid to me. Let's just add a couple more messages and let's see how much we have here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's add another one. So user 3 says ha ha ha. And let's check. So it's still 5 messages. And if I add a new one somewhere, it should be added in the end, the last message. Undefined variable message. It's just because, yeah, it's also something that you need to check if you're doing a real program, but since it's just sort of a proof of concept, you can call it like that. I'm not checking if the valid variables are actually sent or not. And so, yeah, the last message is last. So everything seems to be fine from this point of view. We can just save everything and close. Yeah, basically the server part is done, and it will obviously have some limitations. I mean, I'm not actually sure what will happen if, for example, multiple users send the messages at the same time. Probably the file will be busy and they will not be overwritten or something like that. For cases like that, you actually need to use SQL or doing it in some other proper way, which I won't be doing in scope of this video. So let's proceed with the second part, the client part. I've already created a new CSV file for a game. The first thing I would like to do is to create a simple scene. So I will remove the default cube. I will add a plane. Let's say it will be something like that, maybe. I'm not sure how big will it be, but it should be enough. We'll call it ground, because it will be our ground, and put it in the beginning of coordinates. Then I will create a first person camera, which will be our player. I will also put it at the same coordinate, and I'll put the camera somewhere above, something like that. Let's rename it to player. Also, we need a couple of interface item, so we can see the chat and we can actually type in something in the chat. So the first thing that we need is a box. Oops, something like that. This will be our chat box. Let's call it chat box. In the settings, we need to enable text. And also our text will be a multi-line text because there will be multiple messages from multiple players and they all should be shown on a separate line. Let's have another overlay here. So something like that, and it also should be somewhere on the bottom. This will be our input field. So let's call it, there's the name, chat input. And we also need to enable text here, and we also need to have it either center or top left. Let's just do it top left for now. Let's save the scene. And yeah, and also the last thing, which is more for debugging purposes, we will just add another overlay here. Let's put it somewhere, maybe, I don't know, it doesn't really matter here. And this will be our player name. Player name. Okay, seems legit. So let's just run the project and see if everything works. So yeah, I'm able to move. I can see all overlays. It seems like everything is set up correctly. So the first thing which I need to do, this overlay shouldn't be shown all the time. So I'm gonna hide it for now. Where is visible? It's here. So it will be only shown then the player is typing in something. And in order to do so, and in order to send our data to the client, we need to do some coding. This is my extension folder. I'm using Visual Studio Code to do my extensions. And I also have a couple of templates, which I just copy all the time. I need to start a new behavior. So let's create a new one. I will call it messenger 2 just to avoid the same names, two behaviors to have the same names. I'm removing all the parameters because we don't need them. I'm gonna just rename all the class names, change it to the to correspond the file name, and let's just call it messenger2 here, just to avoid confusion. And basically we don't need any code on animate because it will be only working with the user input. So the very first thing which I would like to add is the ability to show and hide the input box. So for this, we need to check the condition is pressed. So basically pressed is something, do I really need this? Yeah, so yeah, basically this function, it has two, how is it called properly? So basically it has two variables which you can set up. The first one is key. This is a key code of the key which user presses on the keyboard. And the second one is pressed. This variable is true when user presses the key, and it's false when user releases the key. So we only need to act when user presses the key. So we are checking if the key is pressed. When we need to check if the correct key is pressed. So I'm gonna use key 13, which stays for enter. I already remember it, but you can look up it on the internet because there is all sort of charts which can help you with figuring out which code corresponds to which key. And also at this point we need a class property here, which we will call something like is chat enabled or something like that, and we gonna send it to false. This variable which will say false, then the box here is shown, and no, it's opposite, it's not shown. So then it will say false, then the box is not shown, and it will be true, then the box is shown. So currently it's false because by default it will be not shown for us. And then the user presses enter, we're gonna change this variable value to the opposite. So this just means the opposite. So if it was true, it will become false, and vice versa. And now, in order to make the input checkbox visible, we will just use this function, which is built-in Coppercube function, to change the visibility attribute of the node. In order to do so, we also need to access the node. So I'm going to introduce in our class property, which I will call the same way as the chat input called. So it will just be chat input, and I'm gonna search CCB get scene node from name, and I'm gonna pass the same name here just because it's the name of variable. And now let's do this chat input. Visible, and the value will be this is chat enabled. So if it's false, it won't be visible. If it's true, it will be. I'm not sure if I'm messing this up again. So the next thing is that we need to do is currently, let's actually check if it won't work because I didn't add the behavior yet. So I'm gonna go to edit, reload the behaviors so the new one appear in the list, and then I go to scripted behavior, and here's our messages to behavior here. So let's check if it actually works, and yeah, it does. But the issue is that if the chat is opened and I'm using WSD to move, the player still moves. And in order to fix that, we are going to use a special variable called player movement speed. It's a set Coppercube variable, and just a second, I need to probably spell it correctly. Movement speed, something like that. We're gonna set it to also we're gonna send it based on is chat enabled variable value. So in case the chat is enabled, player speed should be 0, and in case it's disabled, we're gonna just set the regular speed, which is currently set by default, so 01. So let's try it again. Run the program, press enter. Now if I'm pressing the keys, nothing happened. Now I'm free to move again. There's also one issue with this approach, because even if the movement is disabled, I still can jump, but I mean, it should be possible to fix it somehow. I just won't do it for this tutorial. So the very next thing is that we need to give our player an ability to actually type something in the chat input box. In order to do so, I'm going to introduce another variable, I mean another class property, which I will call something like input text or something like that, input text, and it will be an empty string by default. So in case let's say in case the key is pressed, and if let's do it probably here. Should I do it here? Yeah, I guess so. Let's just check if chat is enabled. Then we will need to give the user an ability to somehow type something inside the chat. So as I mentioned, this parameter which we have here in our function is not actually a character which a user inputs. It's just a key code. So for example, these two are on the same key, and the key code will be the same. For to sort of fix this or avoid this, I'm just gonna use an object map, which I'm gonna just rip from my, yeah, it's already selected here, which I'm gonna rip from my another behavior. I'm gonna put this variable here on top. I didn't copy it for some reason. So what it has all, not all, I mean some the key codes and the corresponding character mapped to it. So if the key code that user presses is 65, then you will get the A character. It only supports lowercase for now. You can easily make an uppercase by introducing another property which says like this is shift down or something like that, and then just detecting that the shift key was down or not. But also we won't do it in scope of this video. And so yeah, it's just a basic English alphabet and also a space bar to separate words from each other. So if chat is enabled, we will also check if this dictionary has a key which user input. So if it's inside the dictionary, if it's on the left side, the other ones won't fit this condition. Then in this case, we are gonna add, is it input text? We're gonna add our character, which we get like that, to the input text. Basically, that's it. And then another thing which we need to do is we need to set a synode property for chat input to be, it will be text, and also to be input text. So we are just setting the text attribute of the node, of the scene node, to the input text variable. Let's see if it works. So I'm typing in some stuff and it appears here. Yeah, that's really nice. Now we have the option to type something in, and there's only actually one thing which I would really like to add is the ability to remove the last character. So if key is 8, which stays for backspace, but I mean uh, also you can, if you don't know the codes and if you don't remember them, you can just Google them. And in this case, I'm gonna just slice the last element of the input text, and I will do it like that. And I also need to set the property. So something like this. Let's just check if it works. So I'm typing in something, and I also can remove just input characters using backspace. So perfect so far. Yeah, so now we have an ability to type in something, and what we need to do now is we need to somehow send this input to our server. So the input is also sent by key 13. So then the chat was enabled, and then user typed in something, and um, the user presses enter again, the message should be sent. So in this case, I'm just gonna check it once again here. Is chat enabled? And if it's enabled, we're gonna do something which is called an HTTP request. We're gonna do HTTP request for that. And we're gonna make an HTTP request to our endpoint, which we defined here. So it'd be something like that. We don't actually need a protocol, so it just starts with so it's without HTTP or HTTPS, just a regular host. Here we will have the username, which we didn't done yet, and we will have the message. Also notice that inside the message we can have a space bars here. So in order to make everything work, we need to encode the URL, encode URI. So that way we can pass the messages containing spacebar. Another way, if we don't use encode URI, it will return us an error. So we also need to pass a callback function, which will just print us the response from a server. So for now, let's just do it like that, just for debug sake. And also here that it says message, let's just delete the default message and add the actual message that we have, which we store inside this chat input variable. So not chat input, input text. So let's check it again. Nope, I'm just, so I've done it incorrectly. It should be sent then actually chat is disabled, because so basically it's the opposite. So I just messed up the parameters. So let's just type something in. This is a message from player one, and it returns also the same text. This is a message from player one. Let's check our server. So these are all the messages that we store here, and as you can see, our message which we just sent from the game client, it's actually here. So that's really nice. It means everything is working. Let's do the very last thing related to message sending, because here we have a name value which we don't set. For the sake of this tutorial, I will just generate a random player name. So somewhere here probably I will just do a var player name, and I will sort of generate it automatically by doing player plus math random and then +1, and then I'm gonna do to string, and it will be what it would be 36, I guess, if I remember correctly, and substring 7. I think it should work. I guess it should work. It looks like it's correct. And we will also set the scene node property for our input here, which is player name, not input, for our overlay player name. We will set it to the same value so we can see it on screen. So we need to do ccb get scene node from name, and we pass the name here. The second parameter would be text. Is it scene node property? So it will be text, and then we will put a player name here. And we will also set a variable. The scene, or not scene, set Coppercube variable, and we will call it player name, and we will pass the player name there. Let's check really quick if it works. Okay, I guess it's just because it doesn't have the draw text enabled. Let's check again. Yeah, so now we have sort of unique player name. It's only for debugging purposes. Every time it's different name, and now we need to also pass the name here. In order to do so, I'm gonna not this one. I'm gonna remove user4 from our string. I'm gonna add another concatenation signs, and here we should do ccb get Coppercube variable and Coppercube variable player name. I guess it should be correct. Let's check it one more time. So now I'm entering the game. I'm able to move. I can see my name. I press enter. I just type in some new message, and then I send it. I can see that a player with my name sends my message. Let's check it on the backend. So now I have yes player, and this is a new message. Yeah. Basically, now we can send everything to the host. The only last thing which we need to do is we need to receive the messages somehow. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a separate action. I also have a template for action. Let's just name it poll chat or something like that. Poll chat. Let's rename let's change the default names everywhere, and let's call it poll chat. And remove all the default parameters. So that should be a much easier task. What we need to do is we need to get messages from the server first. We're also gonna use the ccb do http request call in order to access our file. So we just use our host and then chatlog, something like that. And we actually need a callback here. So it will be function data, and here inside the data, let's for the debugging purposes, let's just print it out first. And we actually don't need these messages because the syntax is incorrect. It's just me messing everything up. But first, yeah, obviously we need to add this behavior to a chat box. Let's go here, add every few seconds do something. I'm gonna use 2 seconds polling. It seems to be fine to me. Then let's go to scripted actions, and I don't think I have my action here because I didn't reload the plugins. Let's go and check if it appears. Poll chat, it's here, and let's see if it works. So now after 2 seconds, something I should receive something, and I don't. Let's check what happened. Yeah, it's because I'm using the protocol here. I shouldn't use it. I guess that's the reason. Let's check once again. Yeah, and so now I can see all the messages which were sent which are stored on our server side. Now what we need to do is we need to parse this data correctly and set the text for the chat box node. The first thing which we need to do is we need to once again decode the string into the array. If you're using just regular JavaScript, you can use JSON object to do that. There is no JSON object in Coppercube because Coppercube uses some really old version of the JavaScript language. So what we will do is we will do it like that. So basically eval function is a function which allows you to evaluate JavaScript code from the string, and we will evaluate the string and it will return us the array, hopefully. Let's check if it works. So it will be messages eval something like that. Yeah. So let's call it messages array for now. So the next thing, as we done that, we need to format this array to string back to string. And what I would like to do here is I'm gonna make every element of the array to appear on the next line. So I'm gonna join all array elements, and I'm gonna join them by rn, which basically means a new line. And so now the very last thing, I'm gonna set scene node property for the node, which we get from here, from this function, because our action is attached to the node which we are gonna use. And we're gonna say text here, and we're gonna say messages. Oops, let's just check really quickly if it works. So 2 seconds will pass and something should appear. Yes, as you can see, now it appears there. Yeah, for sake of testing, let's just go back to the to our backend. Let's clean the log completely and let's test it properly. So I'm gonna open one instance of it will show us some error. No, it doesn't. One instance of Coppercube. As you can see, I can move. I can. Okay, that's a bug, obviously, because I'm sending the value of with empty string. But I mean, this is easily fixable. So let's just go back to our behavior, and is chat enabled, and this input text length is greater than 0. So it will check if something is actually input, and if it's not, it will just close the input box without actually sending anything. So yeah, now it's fixed. So we have another user here, C8 to C8, and let's just open another instance. We have another user, 1P3, and C8 to C8. Let's just say this is a message from CA2. Oh, I don't have letters, so this is a message from CA. And as you can see, the message is sent. Let's just check another instance. So we also can see a message here, and let's just say a message from one. It only have, so let's call it BG. Okay, so, or we can say just this is a message from player 2. So now it's also sent. And as you can see, another player also gets the same messages. So basically that's it. That's the whole implementation. You only need to host a file with the chat log. You need an ability to modify this chat log from the application, and you also need to have a behavior to input characters and a behavior to fetch the chat log from the server. That's it. I hope this time the video is actually recorded and I can upload it to YouTube. And thank you for watching, I guess.